Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Good afternoon, Kevin. I realize we're here probably to talk about the draft, but I just wanted to revisit yesterday's expansion draft and Mason Appleton being taken by Seattle, and also holding on to Dylan DeMello and the plan that you had going into that and how it worked out. If you could just speak to that a bit.
Well, first and foremost, tremendous thanks to Mason Appleton for the the work that he put into our organization and the contributions that he made. It was a tough call to make, to both Mason and Dylan, to tell them that we had left them unprotected. It was a tough call to make to Mason, to tell him obviously that he was a selection. It was a pretty joyous call to make to Dylan DeMello to say that he was still part of the Jets. So lots of emotion there, but it's a bittersweet thing. It's on the eve of the draft. We end up losing a player that that was drafted, that went through our development process, that became a key contributor in the American League, and then a solid key contributor in the National Hockey League. And it just kind of underscores what the process of this weekend really is all about. And proud of how Mason has come through the organization, and wish him all the best. It creates a hole in our lineup for sure that we're obviously exploring right now the different ways to patch that up.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks very much, Gregor. Good afternoon, Kevin. Yeah, just in terms of patching that up, does that happen internally? Does that maybe happen with what might take place on the draft? Well, not the draft war Friday, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna, we obviously have been planning, that something might happen for a while now. So we've been in our scouting meetings, we've been identifying, who could be out there in free agency, who might be out there in trade, if this scenario happened, or if other scenarios happen. So it's still a work in progress. We're I guess a week, just under a week away from free agency. So lots can happen between now and then. We're going to spend, the time exploring, all those different options. There could be some internal options of, maybe a Vesalainen moving to the right side or something like that. But those things, you have to have some conversations with the coaches and see, where they feel, that is at as well.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
You mentioned difficult calls to Dylan and Mason, obviously, to tell them about not being protected. Can you just take us through the process of, I guess, deciding on your protected list? And I guess the big one that certainly made a lot of noise was protecting Logan Stanley and leaving Dylan exposed.
So what you find out through this process is, who you, everybody does their own, kind of internal protection list of all the different teams. So we spend a tremendous amount of time in the pro scouting meetings, putting what we think is going to be the protection list of the other teams. And then so you can go and make some calls to them to see if there's a guy that you like, that you think is going to be on the outside, if they would, be interested in a trade. So we, obviously that process is not unique to us. The other teams do the same thing, and they came down to, basically the same conclusions that I think everyone was coming down to. So we had a lot of calls on Logan to see if, we'd be interested in trading him as opposed to potentially losing him. And, so we went through that process and became very apparent that even if Seattle wasn't the ultimate destination, there was a lot of, places that might have reached out to Seattle to go in that regard. So that doesn't make it any easier to have to make that decision to put your list in. But there's always going to be risks. We knew going in that we were going to lose a very good player, and it was, you're on pins and needles there a little bit as after you hit send, but you let the process play itself out.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Kevin, just to switch gears here a little bit. What can you tell us about when you first learned of the assault allegations against Brad Aldrich during your time in Chicago?
So, obviously I think, issued a statement here just moments before the the press conference here, and we'll stand by that statement. These are very serious allegations, and you never take them lightly. And obviously, it's a matter that's in front of the courts, and that's really, I guess, essentially, that's why I put the statement out there, and we'll go from there. And again, if the investigators, if there's an opportunity for me to meet with them, I definitely will.
We'll go next to Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks a lot. Hey, Kevin, I had a question actually about the schedule for next year. I saw that they are not doing the 2 home games together homestand thing like they did this year.
Yeah.
And I was wondering your feelings on that. I feel like that'd be a good thing for a team that does a little bit of traveling to have a couple of days in the same spot.
Yeah, so it was something that we talked about, and I think I don't know if it's because of the uniqueness of having the Olympic potential Olympic break in there, if they couldn't make that work, or if there were other reasons. But I know from a hockey standpoint, I think the coaches liked it. I think the players had some time for it. Obviously, it does get old in some respects, where when you have to do a whole entire season of it. So I know that there was maybe a small appetite to have a little bit more of a trial in that situation. But schedule makers, I think, were under a real tough type of situation here. And now it was a lot easier, I think. And again, I may be putting words in their mouths. I think it was a lot easier when, we were in a COVID situation, and really there was no building issues at that point in time. I think you've got, teams that have multiple tenants. You've got concerts, again, all the wonderful things that we've missed, over this period of time. I do think that probably came into play when they tried to put it in practical use.
We'll go next to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Thanks, Gregor. Afternoon, Kevin. Shifting gears to the draft, how would you describe the depth of player available in your range, and what were some of the biggest challenges with the limited live viewings for your scouting staff this year, and how did you tackle those?
So it certainly was a challenge. We had some scouts that were more fortunate than others that were able to have some live views. Certainly the players in Europe there was more opportunity to see them for the scouts, and in the U.S. as well. I think it was great that there was an opportunity at the end of the year in Dallas for a U18 tournament that is always a big scouting tournament when it comes to it, and the participation of a lot of the Canadian players that maybe didn't get a chance to play in the CHL, at least gave them an opportunity to showcase themselves there. But man, oh man, lots and lots of video. We became pretty efficient in that video. We've got a good staff that spends a lot of time, cutting the video and doing the different things. Barrett Laganchuk, our scouting coordinator, just did an awesome job of feeding all of us in the organization with manageable video. So being able to, get multiple views of certain players in kind of more expeditious time, so a better use of your time, so to speak. So you have to really find a way to be efficient and to get the views, and I think as it went on, your eye kind of became more trained on how to to watch the video for the things that you need. There's going to be some good players. It's going to be an interesting process. Is it going to be as tight to your list as in the past? I don't know. I think there's some good players in our range there that we'd be real excited to have. We've some of the players that we've picked in the past in this range have gone on to be very good players for our organization right now. So it'll be it's still in the refining final stages, and we're still working that through.
We'll go next to Sarah Lesky from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, Kevin. Just wondering, when looking ahead to whether it be free agency or via trade, when you look at your blue line, is how many defensemen are you looking to hopefully target or add through that process?
It'll be a function of a couple of things. I think, one, there has to be an opportunity in front of us that makes sense. We can, there's lots of names out there that people say would be great fits, but the fit has to be the right thing for both sides. Again, it'll be a function of cap as well. There's only so much, so many dollars that we can, shift around or do different things with that respect. So, and we have to give, some value to the young players that we have in the organization and put them up beside what a potential free agent, might look like and see, where things are going to be at, 20, 30, 40 games down the road. Would you be better in a better position with, those players having played, that amount of games and that amount of experience. So a lot of it goes in. We're still a long way from free agency. So, who's going to be left on the board when the clock starts, so to speak, will be, I guess, interesting to see.
Go next to Carter Brooks from Game On. Go ahead, Carter.
Hi, Kevin. I know you mentioned already a little bit about Mason Appleton and the decision you made there.
Yeah.
But how difficult was it to kind of go with this? We've seen the Jets go through the draft and develop model for so many years, and someone that has gone through so well with Mason Appleton through the Moose, putting together his campaigns in the AHL, then coming to the NHL and starting to flourish. How tough was it to make that call?
Oh, it was real tough. Again, and we had a meeting this morning with our amateur scouts, and I led off the meeting, with that very comment that, again, because of the scouting that they did and the pick that we made that, obviously we had an NHL player, but we all knew when Seattle was coming in that there was going to, be an opportunity to lose a piece of your team. We discussed with Seattle about what it would take to potentially not lose a piece off our team, but there was nothing that would work for me, to make a deal that was going to satisfy that. So, like I say, when you get ready to hit send on your protection list, you take a deep breath and there was lots of conversation and dialogue and it became what it became. And when I got the call from Ron Francis yesterday morning that, he had made that claim, I think the only sigh of relief is that now we can move forward and, at least which path you're going down and Mason's going to be a good player there. I think he's going to, I think with an increased role there, he's going to flourish and good for him. And, we wish him all the best.
We'll go back to Kelly Moore from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Kevin, you mentioned the fact that the list could really be changing on Friday night. How deep do you think the draft goes before the uncertainty starts to happen? Is it the first 5, first 8? Where do you see the muddling start to begin?
Yeah, I think there's several different tiers. I think, certainly you have the high end tier, where, again, the players that are going real high there are going to be real special and probably earlier, sooner rather than later. And I think there's maybe a little bit of a middle tier. And then I think there's a pretty solid, kind of tier just below that middle tier that's right there. So I think that's where we're in, with our pick. And then I think, slightly after our pick, I think there's a little bit of a drop off.
We'll go back to Mike McIntyre from the Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks again, Gregor. Kevin, just sort of a two-parter here on the state of your own players or guys that were on your roster this past year. I realize you probably can't give us too much by way of details, but can you give us a general sense of negotiations with your 2 RFAs in Neil and Andrew? And with regards to your UFAs, I know you re-signed Dominic. Can you give us a sense, I guess, of is the door open on any of those guys and any specifics before next Wednesday?
So on the 2 UFAs, we've had kind of preliminary conversations with both of their camps. They're obviously in different situations where you own them, you qualify them, you go through a certain process. I think from a UFA standpoint, we've had conversations, I think, with all the UFA's agents, and I would say it's best described as a lot of balls in the air type thing. And every decision affects another decision, whether it comes to position or cap, or free agency or trade. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of be methodical, I guess, in the process.
Go next to Ted Wyman from the Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Kevin, you keep DeMello around, but you've got a lot more left shot defensemen under contract right now than you do right shot defensemen. Yeah. Is there a priority on trying to add at that particular position, right shot defenseman, through free agency or trades?
Well, I think, I think it stares at you first. I think when you look at the screen, that's what you see first. When I look up on my board, our youth is on the left side. It's sometimes you've got guys that maybe can play the right side, but in the process of trying to add, I think you first keep an open mind and see what might be there, whether it's right side or left side, through trade or potential free agency, and then you hone in on it. You see where, is this a better opportunity for the money, and vice versa. So it comes into play, but I think, again, it's not a perfect world here. There's not always that perfect, right-hand shot, fit that's, 6'4", 260 pounds that can shoot the puck like crazy and, used to ragdoll two players all the time.
Go back to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Sorry, that was a really good answer. Did you find, Kevin, there's a sense of urgency based on where, players like Blake and Mark and Connor Hellebuyck are? You've got them under control for another 3 years. I know you've got some great prospects coming up that, are probably going to fill things in and be really great NHL players. But is there a sense of urgency maybe in taking care of the window that your team has in front of you right now and trying to solve some of these problems that you have on the back end right now?
Well, we've been in that mode really since the day that we actually were able to kind of re-sign Blake Wheeler. It was one of those things where, if he had gone off into free agency, I think the path of the organization probably goes in a different direction. We've had a lot of ups and downs and bumps and unforeseen things happen to us along the way, be it, Brian Little, be it, Buff, those type of situations that we've had to, kind of pivot on the fly. And we've been able to make the postseason, while still doing that. So that urgency has been there, right from, like I say, that moment on. And it continues moving forward here. And we're fortunate that we have a good group. What's happened along the way is, players like Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers have really come into their own. Obviously we made that decision several years ago to give Connor Hellebuyck the reins and let him cut his teeth in the National Hockey League. And that decision has helped us to get to that point where we're at here now with a Vezina winning goaltender. So yeah, we're hopeful that we can find ways to address, the opportunities, again, have to be there. And we're hopeful that, we can find our way.
Go back to Carter Brooks from Game On. Go ahead, Carter.
Hi again, Kevin. You just mentioned Brian Little. How difficult has it been the past couple of summers or past couple of off seasons now, kind of not entirely knowing what the situation is there, or unless maybe something new has come to light? Had there any developments on the Brian Little front?
No. So Brian's essentially in our estimation here is we're treating it, and he's treating it like he's not playing unless a doctor comes and says, you're cleared. And there's no doctors right now that are going to do that. So from that standpoint, although he's not retired, like he's a player that's not available to us.
Go back to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Kevin, what was your reaction to the news earlier today that the AHL might be an option for Cole Perfetti? I know there's still a little bit of the hypothetical, but would you be supportive of a rule change of that manner, that in terms of how that might affect Cole and some of the other players that had AHL experience this year?
See, I'm obviously a big supporter of junior hockey and making sure your kids develop, properly. And, so again, the CHL rule has been a rule that has afforded that opportunity to those young kids to develop based on if you're not 18 or 19 and in the National Hockey League you have to go back. I think we're in a real unique situation here. This past season with Cole especially, and I guess I can't speak for any other teams, but if in fact that does become a rule, whether it's for this year or moving forward, I think you have to be careful how you use it. But a player like Cole, shown tremendous improvement, going to the World Championships and playing with men, and having that opportunity, I think help further his development. And if there's that opportunity next year, I think having him available to the American League is just a great option to have, especially for him. That's not to say that he doesn't come to camp and earn a job, because that opportunity could be there for him as well for an exciting young guy like that. So any option that we have with his development, like the American Hockey League, is a welcome thing.
Just a few more for Kevin. We'll go back to Mike McIntyre from the Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Kevin, I know it's going to be unveiled, I think, at 5:00 our time today, but just give us your thoughts on your team schedule for next season, which obviously is going to look a lot different than the one you just completed.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's there's obviously if the Olympics is still a reality, they're at least you're moving forward in that regard right now, putting some emphasis on that in the schedule. It's a period of time where you have a big break, so going back to when we had the Olympics before, it was an interesting time for everybody not to have games in your marketplace for an extended period of time. The good thing, I guess, for us is we'll have Moose Hockey playing during that time, and a great opportunity for for some people to keep their hockey fix, so to speak, going while the potential Olympics would be going on. It's it compresses things in a certain manner when you have those kind of things, but we've just gone through a really compressed schedule, and I think that it does get you back a little bit more to the traditional time where you can have off days and the like. So of course it's not perfect. There's always things that you would have liked to change, and but the NHL does their very best to try to listen to to everybody's problems, so to speak.
Go back to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Kevin, you were talking about your assessment of the draft and the upper tier, and then, you guys, there's a drop off in that kind of secondary tier right behind you. Do you foresee the way that those tiers are setting up, or maybe the way scouting was challenging this year, as this being a kind of year where there's maybe more opportunity in than past years, and maybe moving those picks or making kind of, more active GMing than we would typically see?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure yet. Haven't really had a round of those calls yet for teams looking to move up. There might be some situations where again, for us, if we don't if we've lost the players off the board that we covet, we might move back. It just depends on I guess how it all unfolds in front of you.
And final question to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Kevin, if you were to take a look at either trading or signing an unrestricted free agent to address a need, keeping in mind you said previously that there have been times in the past where you've earmarked people, but they just don't see you or your organization as a viability. So would a trade be more of a likelihood if there was a need that you wanted to address?
I think you're open to everything. Again, right now we're active in both fronts. We're active on whether it's talking about trading players for picks, talking about maybe trading players for players, and then but you don't have the shotgun start yet of free agency yet. So that's the thing that kind of happens. Like the timing side of things, you're always, kind of weighing and wondering. So you don't know, like there are, we've addressed some needs, albeit maybe short-term, through free agency last year, and maybe there's that opportunity again this year. So you kind of evaluate everything as it comes at you, and as the different, different, events, unfold. And obviously, the draft right now, everybody's talking, whether you're going to move a pick for something. So, cause that's the way it is. The value of picks right now are at their highest, and because everyone's getting set and ready to pick. So, once these next 2 days go by, then, you're focused more on the either player for player or free agency aspect of things.
Thanks very much, Kevin.